These are the solutions to the study guide, finally. So, first, do you know how to simplify? So simplifying means you're first going to have to factor. So if I look at the numerator, two numbers that multiply to negative 8, and the same two numbers add to 2 are 4 and negative 2. In a diamond for the denominator, two numbers that multiply to 12 and add to 7 are 4 and 3. We need to write down the restrictions, so x cannot equal. We look at the denominator. What makes the denominator 0? It's the opposite numbers of what I see in the denominator. That's negative 4 and negative 3. Then, is there a factor that matches and crosses out? And then we're left with our answer. Next one. I want to factor the numerator. So two numbers that multiply to 42 and add to 13 are 6 and 7. Look at the denominator. Two numbers that multiply to 36 and add to 12 are 6 and 6. I'm not going to write down 6 squared. So it makes it more complicated to simplify. So I'm just going to write 6 and 6. This numerator, we're going to factor out an x, and you're left with x minus 1. And the denominator is prime. That's x minus 1. So there are two numbers x cannot be. From the denominator, negative 6 and positive 1. I don't write down negative 6 again. So negative 6 and positive 1 are the restrictions. Then we cross out, and then you're left with your answer. Done. Dividing. So first, x plus 1 and x minus 3 are prime. Change it from dividing to multiplying by doing the reciprocal. So this bottom will be in the top. So I'm going to factor this out. The two numbers are 4 and negative 3. That goes in the numerator. The top goes to the bottom. Again, a simple diamond. So the two numbers that multiply to 10 and add to 11 are 10 and 1. So my restrictions are positive 3, negative 10, and negative 1. Match and cross out x plus 1, cross out x minus 3. So my answer is x plus 4 over x plus 10. All right, simplify this by factoring. So we factor out an x plus 3. The denominator is a difference of squares. So the square root of x squared and the square root of 9. That's positive and negative 3. So this is going to be positive 3 and one that's negative 3. So my restriction from the denominator is negative 3 and positive 3. Match and cross out, and then what's left in the numerator and what's left in the denominator. And you have your answer. All right, we're going to factor this and simplify it. So this is a two-step diamond. So I'm going to take the first number times the last number. So 6 times 2, which is 12, and negative 7. And then what two numbers multiply to 12 and add to negative 7? Let's see if I can get this thing focused in. It's negative 4 and negative 3. But I then have to divide. So I write negative 4 and negative 3. And then I take the first number and divide. Now what makes this a little challenging is I can't slide the denominator yet because the fractions have to be in lowest terms. So 4 over 6, divide by 2, and it's 2 over 3. 3 over 6, divide by 3, and in lowest terms it's 1/2. Now the denominator is going to slide in front. So I'm going to write 3x minus 2, and the denominator in front, 2x minus 1. 4x squared, take away 1 is a difference of squares. So I square root 4x squared, and I square root 1. So the square root of 4x squared is 2x. The square root of 1 is plus and minus 1. So we have 2x plus 1 and 2x minus 1. The restrictions come from the denominator. We need to go back a step here and understand that 2 is really a fraction. So it's positive and negative 1/2. And then we can match and cross out, and then I'm left with my answer. And it's done. All right, back again here, we're going to factor. So I'm going to factor out of 4x. That leaves me with x plus 3. The denominator, I'm going to square root. That's x plus 3 and x minus 3. The numerator is a one-step diamond. So negative 20 and negative 1. The two numbers are negative 5 and positive 4. And then the denominator. I factor out an x, and I have x plus 4. The numbers x cannot be from the denominator are negative 3, positive 3, 0, and negative 4. And then we can match and cross out. So x plus 3 matches, x matches, don't forget that one. Anything else? X plus 4. I knew there was another one. So we have 4 that did not cross out, x minus 5, and then in the denominator, x minus 3. All right, dividing. So the first, x plus 5 and x plus 7, that's prime. Change it to multiplying. So we're going to do the reciprocal. So we'll start at the bottom. 5 times negative 7 is negative 35 and positive 34. So that's 35 and negative 1. When I divide by 5, I get 35 divided by 5 is 7. And then negative 1 divided by 5, the denominator slides in front, and it's 5x minus 1. We're going to do the same thing to this numerator that will become the denominator. 3 times 10 is 30 and 17. So the two numbers are 15 and 2. Divide by 3, and 1 is x plus 5, and the other is going to be 3x plus 2. So the restrictions of what x can't be are negative 7, negative 5, and negative 2/3. Now we can match and cross out, and then what are we left with in the numerator? And what are we left with in the denominator? And we have our answer. All right, next we're going to factor again. Factor out of 5x. And 5x times what is 5x squared? 5x times what is 10x? And the denominator. Factor out an x, and you're left with x squared subtract 4. Now, that x squared subtract 4 is a difference of squares. So the square root of x squared and the square root of 4, which is plus and minus 2. Now we go back to the fraction. So we have 5x, x plus 2. Now in the denominator I have x, and then x plus 2, x minus 2. Now we're going to write down what x cannot equal. So looking at the denominator, it's 0, negative 2, and positive 2. We match and cross out, we match and cross out, and then you're left with 5 over x minus 2. All right, turn the page. In order to add fractions, the denominators need to be the same. They are the same. So the restriction here is negative 2 from the bottom. Because the denominators are the same, I just write them and copy it. So x plus 2, I write it down, and then I add the numerators. So x plus x, 1 subtract 5. Now, I could factor out a 2, and there might be another step to simplify, but there isn't. And I have my answer. Here, the denominators are not the same, but to make them the same, I'm going to multiply top and bottom times 4. So when I do that, 4 times 2 is 8x. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Now the denominators are the same. X cannot equal 0, and we add the top. So 8 plus 5 and negative 12 plus 1, and the denominator stays the same. Here's another one. Subtracting, we need the denominators to be the same. So step 1 is to factor the denominator here. So two numbers that multiply to 6 and add to 5 are 3 and 2. So to make the denominators the same, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by x plus 2. So I have x minus 3, x plus 3, x plus 2. I have, and I'm going to distribute here, 2 times x and 2 times 2. And again, the same denominator. So my answer is going to have one denominator, x plus 3, x plus 2, and then I subtract. So x subtract 2x is negative 1x. Negative 3 subtract 4 is negative 7. And the two numbers x can't be are negative 3 and negative 2. All right, here there's nothing to factor. So in order to make the denominators the same, I have to take the other denominator and multiply top and bottom. So I'm going to multiply it by x plus 1, top and bottom. I'm going to multiply by x plus 6, top and bottom. So now the denominators are the same. This is 5x plus 5, same denominator. This is 2x plus 12, same denominator. So my final answer is going to have one denominator. And then I subtract. So 5x take away 2x is 3x. 5 take away 12 is negative 7. And then x cannot equal negative 1 and negative 6 from the bottom. All right, we need to make the denominators the same. So to make the denominators the same, we're going to take the second denominator and multiply top and bottom by x plus 3. We're going to do the same thing for the second fraction, multiply top and bottom times x. Now the denominators are the same. We're going to distribute. So it's negative x and negative 3. And negative 5x. And then we're going to add. So the denominator is going to stay the same. And then negative x plus negative 5x is negative 6x minus 3. You could factor out a negative 3 and see if something simplifies. Nothing does. And the restriction, there are two numbers x can't be, which are 0 and negative 3. All right, I need to make the denominators the same. 4 and 6 both go into 12 evenly. So I'm going to multiply by 3. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 3. The second one, to make it a 12, I'm going to multiply times 2, top and bottom. And then I'm going to distribute. So we have 3x minus 6 over 12x. We have 2x plus 6 over 12x. So we have one denominator for our answer. 3 plus 2 is 5x. Negative 6 plus 6 is 0. Notice here the x's cross out and you're left with your answer. And what can x not be here is 0 before you crossed it out. All right, some equations to solve. So this is called a proportion. So we take the bottom of one times the top of the other. So 3 times 4 is 12x. We're going to do the same thing here and multiply. So 5 times 3x and 5 times negative 3. And then we're going to solve it. So I'm going to subtract 15x. Then I'm going to divide by negative 3. And I'm going to get my answer. From the denominator, x cannot equal 0. Now for this, to figure out what the 0 is, we have to factor this. So if I factor out a 3 from both, and what's the 0 here? The opposite number here is positive 1. So the restriction is 0 and 1, and the answer is 5. All right, here all the denominators are the same, so you only solve the numerators. So we're already ready to go. So write down the numerator, write down the numerator, and write down the numerator. The restriction is from the denominator, so x can't equal 1, and then I'm going to solve it. So 5 plus 2x, the like terms, is 7x. 1 take away 10 is negative 9. Add 9 to both sides, and then divide by 7. Check, make sure it's a good solution, which it is. This is a proportion again, so I'm going to go x times x minus 3. I'm also going to go 13 times x, and then I'm going to solve it. Now recognize the denominator, that x can't equal positive 3, and then we're going to solve this. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. To solve this, I'm going to make it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 13x. Negative 3 take away 13 is negative 16. And then I'm going to factor. To factor this, I just factor out an x. And then my two answers are 0 and positive 16. Both are good answers, 0 and 16. To solve this one, we need to make the denominators the same. So to do that, we're going to take the first fraction and we're going to multiply top and bottom by x minus 2. The second one, we're going to multiply top and bottom by x plus 1. Now, here's the tricky one. 1 has a denominator, and the denominator you don't see for 1 is 1. All the denominators need to be the same. So I need to multiply the top and the bottom by x minus 2x plus 1. Take a moment and think about it. So I need all the denominators to be the same. So 1 would not match the other denominators. So to make the match, I take that denominator, x minus 2, x plus 1, and I multiply top and bottom times that. So when you multiply it times 1, it just stays the same. All right, I'm only going to write down the numerators. So we have x minus 2, I have 4, x plus 1, and I have x minus 2, x plus 1. Just the numerators. We're going to multiply it out. X times x times negative 2. 4 times x, and 4 times 1. Now this one we have to FOIL. So first times first, that's x squared. First times outer, that's 1x. Inner, that's negative 2x. And then last times last, which is negative 2. Now we're going to bring all the family members together. So we have x squared. Negative 2x plus 4x is plus 2x plus 4. On the other side, we have x squared. We have 1x take away 2x, which is negative 1x minus 2. Now we need to bring the family members together that are on opposite sides. So I'm going to subtract x squared. That actually crosses out on both sides. I'm going to add x. 2 plus 1 is 3x, and these cross out. I'm going to subtract 4. This crosses out. Negative 2, take away 4 is negative 6. Divide by 3. And negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. Now, what are my restrictions? I should have done that at the beginning. So I'll do that right here. I almost ran out of space, right? So what is the numbers x can't be? From the denominator is negative 1 and 2. Now, positive 2 is not the same as negative 2. So this is a good answer. But we did need to check. All right, next one. I know these are challenging, which is great, right? So you're going to listen. You might have to play the video twice, right? To make sure you know what you're doing. All right, step 1 is to make the denominators the same. So to do that, I'm going to make all the denominators match 4x because they all go into 4x evenly. So the first one, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 4. Now it has matched. For the last one, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 2x. And now when you look at it, all the denominators are the same. The only number x can't be here is 0. And now I write down only the numerators. So I have 4, x plus 1, and then 1 times 2x. And that's what I'm going to solve. So distribute, that's 4x plus 4. 1 times 2x is 2x. And then we're going to solve it. So they're on the same side. So 4 plus 1 is 5. These are on opposite sides. So I'm going to subtract 2x. I'm also going to subtract 5. Now, I don't see a number here, so if you want, you can have a 0 there. But when you do it, it's just negative 5. And then divide by 2, and you have your answer. And you can leave the answer like that, negative 5 over 2. It's a good answer because it's not 0. All right, this is the last equation. Then we're graphing, right? And I like the graphing better. So, I need the denominators to be the same. I don't see a denominator, so I'm going to put that and make that 1. So the first denominator, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by x. This is to make the denominators the same. The second one, I'm going to multiply it by x minus 4, top and bottom. And then the last one, I'm going to multiply it by both x and x minus 4, top and bottom. So take a moment and process how to make the denominators the same. And what did I do to make them the same? There are two numbers x cannot be. Positive 4 and 0. Now write down only the numerators. So that's x times x. That's x squared. That's 5x minus 20. Then this is 6x times x. That's 6x squared. And 6x times negative 4, which is negative 24x. So now the parentheses are done. Combine like terms. So I'm going to keep the power term positive. So I'm going to subtract x squared in order to factor it. So this is 6 take away 1, which is 5x squared. I'm going to subtract 5x. That's negative 29. And then I'm going to add 20. There's not even a number there, so you just add 20 at the end. That's equal to 0 now, and now we can solve this by factoring. So it's a two-step diamond. The first number times the last number, that's 100, and negative 29. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to 100 and add to negative 29. So those two numbers are negative 25 and negative 4. Now there are two steps here. So we're going to take that answer and we're going to divide by 5. Now, there is no need to shift the denominator. So I am going to divide. So 25 divided by 5 is 5. But the fraction, I'm going to leave it as a fraction because that's my answer. So what's the opposite number? What makes this 0 is positive 5 and positive 4/5. And then make sure when you check, is it a good answer? Like those are the two answers it can't be. These are my answers. They're good answers. And I'm done. Again, if you need to go back and do it again, take out a blank piece of paper, write the question down again to get a sense of how to do it. That was the most difficult one. All right, now we're on to graphing. All right, these first graphs are reciprocal. So for a reciprocal, we're going to write down what A equals, what H equals, and what K equals. I'm going to put a box around A and K. That's the Y coordinate. I'm going to put a box around H. That's the X coordinate. We start with 2 points, 1, 1, and -1, -1. So to the X's, I add 3. So 1 plus 3 and -1 plus 3. To the Y's, I'm going to multiply and add 1. So 1 times 1 and then add 1. That's 2. -1 times 1 is -1. And if you add 1 to -1, it's 0. So your 2 points are 4, 2 and 2, 0. We also have 2 lines. One's called the vertical and one's the horizontal. So the vertical is X equals H and the horizontal is Y equals K. And we're going to put that on our graph. So 3 and 1. We're going to curve them. And then finish this. So the domain is X can equal H. The range is Y can equal 1. Points we just used were 4, 2 and 2, 0. And the end behavior goes to K. And our K value is 1. All right, let's practice that again so we can graph a reciprocal. So I'm going to do that up here just a little bit. So A is -3 and H is -1 and K is 2. Put a box around it. That changes the Y. This changes the X. The 2 points that we're going to change are 1, 1 and -1, -1. So we're going to subtract 1. That's 0. When I subtract 1 to -1, that's -2. To the Y value, we're going to multiply and then add 2. So 1 times -3 is -3 plus 2 is -1. So that's a point is 0, -1. And to the second Y value, -1 times -3 is +3. Plus 2 is 5. So -2 and 5. So I got 0, -1. And I got -2 and 5. All right, we have 2 lines. We'll put them right here. So we have a vertical and a horizontal. X equals H, and the horizontal is Y equals K. So I'm going to put those on my graph, -1 and 2. And then I'm going to draw it. The domain, X cannot equal what the H value is. The range, Y can equal the K value. And then the end behavior goes to K. In this case, that is 2. All right, 2 more to practice. You should try it first, of course. So I have A is equal to 4, and I got H is equal to 1. No, -2. K is 1. This changes the Y, and this changes the X. I have 2 points that I'm changing. So 1, 1. So I'm going to subtract 2. So 1 take away 2 is -1. And then I'm going to multiply and add 1. So 1 times 4 and then add 1. So it's -1, 5. The second point is -1, -1. So I'm going to go -1, take away 2. and negative 1 times 4, which is negative 4, plus 1, which is negative 3. And we're going to put that on our graph. So negative 1, 5, and negative 3, negative 3. We have two lines. The vertical is at x equals h, which is negative 2, and the horizontal is at y equals k, which is 1. So we're going to put that on our graph. So negative 2 and 1. Oh, I made a mistake here somewhere. So where did I make my mistake? 4 and 1 and negative 2. So I recognize that it's not above and below. So where did I make my mistake? So I went 1 times 4 plus 1. I like that one. Negative 4 plus 1. That one's good. Subtract. I know, and you probably see where I made my mistake, and you could like be talking to me through the video about what I did. So 1 take away 2 is negative 1 and negative 3. I agree. I'm just going back over it again. So that's 4 plus 1, which is 5. Negative 4 plus 1, which is that. I know what I did wrong now. Did you see it? This is in the wrong location, right? So I needed to go negative 3, negative 3. I had to go down. You probably did that correctly and wondered, why did I make that mistake? But recognize that I knew that the line split the points in half, right? Like you have to have one above and one below, one to the left, one to the right. It wasn't doing that, so I knew I made a mistake. Now it's fitting. And now I can put 1 here. And again, I'll show you what I'm looking at again. So do I have 1 point on the right and 1 point on the left, one above and one below? And then we can draw it. We're back on track. So the domain x cannot equal h, y cannot equal k, and then the end behavior goes to k, which is 1. All right, one more of reciprocal, and then we'll look at rationals and so on. So I'll put a line right here. So we have a is equal to negative 3, h is negative 4, and k is negative 1. This changes the y value, and this changes the x value. We're going to start with 0.11 and change it, and negative 1, negative 1, and change it. So we're going to subtract 4. So 1 take away 4, and negative 1 take away 4. So those are my x's. For my y's, I'm going to multiply and then add, subtract. So 1 times negative 3, and then take away 1. Negative times a negative is positive 3, take away 1, and then put those points on the graph. So negative 3, negative 4, I'm not going to make the same mistake again. I hope not. Then negative 5 and positive 2. So now my points are okay. I have two lines. So my vertical and my horizontal. So x equals h and y equals k. So I have a line at negative 4 and at negative 1. And I'm going to draw them. To write down the domain, x cannot equal h, y cannot equal the k. The 2 points I used were negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, and 2. And the end behavior approaches the k value, which is negative 1. All right. These now are rationals, which are just different. A reciprocal is a simple rational, and we do that using transformations. But these, instead, I'm going to do a different technique to graph these. So first step is this factorable? Is there something that simplifies? The answer is no. So from this equation, what's the domain? So I write x cannot equal. and I look at the denominator and what makes it 0. So the opposite numbers are make 0, so it's